Very important for the cherries, otherwise you end up with bacterial infection, Pseudomonas, and tree will die if you don't make sure that the root conditions are in optimum conditions. So instead of looking at the tree before you start planting, always check the soil and try to improve. Yeah? So if you have a sandy place or a layer in your soil, rip it, that you have a good drainage. It's very important for the cherries, for pruners. Oops. Yeah. So this also in Chile, we have high ridges for good drainage, and it warms up in springtime, so we have root activity in blooming time. But in summertime, they cover it with aluminium foil or with straw to reduce the temperatures, to keep tree activity and less stress in the tree. Yeah? If we have a table system, you have a natural shading on your ridge, actually in summertime, which is necessary to keep the tree without too much stress. You see, especially in Gisela rootstocks or Maxima rootstocks, the roots are very concentrated between the two drip lines or the sprinklers. It's only in the surface of 30 centimeters. That's where all the roots are, so you really have to take care in your irrigation that there's no stress in the roots. Even when you crop the trees, you see it's very shallow rooting. Gold will do the same, more or less shallow, but very widespread. But if you have a very concentrated root, you have more influence with your irrigation and nutrition to control the tree, yeah? Instead of a big wide root system. To get this, we need moisture probes in the soil. Absolutely, it's a must. Here you see what we measure with water volume content. Here in Europe and Italy, we are most here in clay soils. Yeah. So our optimum is about 45% from blooming till end of harvest. Yeah. So just before harvest, if we get a rain event, we go more to a little bit more stress, not too much root pressure. If we have enough growth of 1 meter, yeah, then we go to irrigation deficit. We work with 35% to stop active growth. So I want to control the vigor of the tree, because if I stop active growth, the tree has less stress in heat waves, in heat conditions. If you have an active tree with 37 degrees and it has to grow, it needs a lot of energy to push the tree with new leaves in these hot conditions. If you stop the vigor, it's less stressful for the tree, and all the energy what the tree produces after harvest goes to the flower buds for next year instead of active growth. So it's very important to control the healthiness of the tree, but also the quality of the tree with moisture probes, and adjust the irrigation and your water supply to the tree. So normally if you have a soil analysis, yeah, you get a pF curve, which will say, okay, this is where it's too much water or you need more water, so it gives you the optimum range for your water table for irrigation. Yeah? So we will never hit the red part, but if you hit the red part now, let's say in March or in February, it will guarantee that it will give you a second flush because it was too much stress. We don't want to hit the blue parts because the blue part will say there's less oxygen available for the roots and you get dieback or even Pseudomonas problems or other problems in your tree health. So we want to keep it optimum from blooming till harvest, and after harvest we go more to the stress, but this is still optimum for the trees. We still have green leaves, but we stop the active vigor in the tree. Yeah? The same we can do with water probes based on kilopascal. Yeah. So these are with watermarks, but more the same principle. You measure with the probes the moisture in the soil at different deeps, and then you stay always, what you see here, between 15 and 300 kilopascal, or this is a minibar actually, but you stay in the optimum conditions. So the blue here, this is already too wet, and if you hit the red part, it's too stressful for the tree. So you want to stay between 200, 300, and if we want to stop the growth, you go to 400. So it's very easy. Probes are available to control the trees. Yeah. And also you have very high computer systems that will measure in different layers, but it's all about tree healthiness and to keep the optimum conditions. Yeah? So even here for watermarks, you try for optimum, always stay between 15, 20, 25 kilopascal. Yeah? And after harvest, go a little bit higher, up to 40, 50, to stop the active growth. Yeah, other thing is what we do to protect for twin fruits or double fruits the next season when we have very hot weather in our August time, same in Italy, we protect the trees when we spray kaolin surround to avoid this stress problem for double fruits. For nutrition, yeah, nutrition, nothing special actually for the cherries, it's more or less a standard, but we start very early with nutrition. And there was a discussion over the last weeks, yeah, but if I put out nutrition so early, the roots are not active, the soil is too cold, the soil is too wet, which is true, yeah. If we put on the first 30 kilos of calcium nitrate at bud break, so very early in the season, but we need about 40, 50 millimeters of rain to flush the nitrate into the soil, yeah. If we get 100 millimeters of rain, yeah, then it flushed too deep and we lose the nitrogen, yeah. But the reason is we want, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, 70% of the nitrogen the tree needs directly after blooming, because then the reserves are empty and the tree has to take up nitrogen. If I start with the fertigation or the sprinklers with nitrogen at that time after blooming, I'm just too late. It will take time before the tree can take it up. So if I do something today, the reaction you see in 10, 14 days. No, you should put ahead of it, yeah, so it is available when at the time that the tree it needs, and that is directly after blooming. So we start a bud break with about 30 kilos of calcium nitrate, and we spread it on the stripes. Then from blooming, we start with ammonium nitrate, but ammonium will turn into nitrate, but it needs temperature in the soil. So that 60 kilos more or less, 65 kilos is enough to give a good start for these production what we want. On cold rootstocks you can do similar, but I would do 50% of the total. Yeah, don't stimulate too much, but there should be some available for the tree. And normally in our conditions, because potassium is the main element what goes into the cherry, so if you produce 20 tons, you would take about 150, 200 kilos of pure potassium out of the orchard with the cherries. So we make sure that after stone hardening, we change the fertigation system with the potassium nitrate to give more potassium for the cherries. So finally, throughout the season, we're on a maximum or 80 or 90 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. Of course, after harvest, we take leaf samples, and if there is a deficiency on nitrogen, potassium, or boron, we will start up fertigation again or supply with foliar nutrition, but we cannot put more post-harvest than 100% in the leaves. You cannot put 150, no. 100 is the maximum, so that's why we start early in the season, so there is nitrogen available for the tree to make all these new leaves and to secure the fruit set. That's most important. Yeah. About cations and anions, you will understand, so I don't, because there's limited time left. But we do leaf samples. We have different targets with Gisela or cold, what we do. So normally the Gisela needs a bit more. We pay attention for foliar nutrition, especially after blooming. We spray a lot of stimulants with amino acids or algae products to stimulate cell division. Yep. Also, we look at the irrigation water to have 100% efficiency of our irrigation water and fertilizers that we put in the drip irrigation. Make sure your pH is not too high, especially your EC is also not too high. to keep the optimum conditions for the roots. Yeah. Okay, this is the mix, which, because you cannot mix all the fertilizers in your unit.